This is the Sony A7IV that's been out for about 12 months now, and I've been using it as my main photography camera for pretty much most of that time. Well, there was a short stint that I wasn't able to use it, but I'll explain about that later in the video. So I've been able to put it through its paces for photography and for video, and I've definitely got some thoughts about this camera. There's some things that I love about it, but there's also some things that I don't quite like about it. So why don't we have a look to see whether it's still worth all the hype. Hello you beautiful humans, it is Gemline here and welcome to another video. So the Sony A7IV has been out for a year now and there was a lot of hype around it for when it was announced. Its previous model, the A7 III, was very popular and for very good reason. It packed a lot of amazing features into a small hybrid mirrorless camera for a reasonably good price. I was using it as my main camera for photography and for video for close to 4 years before upgrading to the A7IV, so I know that camera inside and out. The A7IV is definitely a worthy upgrade from the A7 III, and there's lots of amazing features that still, a year later, are really good. There are a couple of things that I'm not too keen on, but why don't we get into what is good about the camera first off. So why don't we start off with the build quality of the camera. It is definitely a premium upgrade from the A7 III. Everything from the buttons to the layout to the feel of the grip, it all feels really good. The biggest thing that I really like about it is the hand grip. It is definitely improved in size. I found that the A7 III was just a little bit too small in my hands, and now with the A7IV, it feels really comfortable. I really love the buttons and the dials. They've definitely improved them. I don't know what they've done, but it's a very satisfying soft click on them when you press them. Even with the shutter and the dials, it feels really nice, opposed to the clicky, hard plastic that was on the A7 III. Everything with the dials and the buttons, they're all really well placed, and it's fantastic. Also like that they got rid of those loose, flappy doors that were over the I/O ports and replaced them with hinged, hard plastic covers, which work really well, so they do not get in the way. Big improvement. I also really like the flippy screen. I am a big fan of it, and I'm so glad that they brought it over to the A7 IV. I know some photographers don't like it, but I have found with my photography, I've been able to capture more shots with it because I'm able to put the camera into a different position that I wouldn't have been able to do before, because I wouldn't have been able to see the screen with it being tilt or without being able to look in the viewfinder. So I think it is a big improvement. Be interested to see with the future A7V whether they put in the new tilt, pivot, flippy screen that's on the new A7R5, whether that will be an upgrade in the future. So we'll see how that goes. Now, something that some people have complained about is overheating with the camera. I have never experienced any overheating, even here in Australia with the hot summer. Never once have I experienced that. What I've found that the people that are complaining about it overheating is they haven't put the temp high operating feature enabled in the menu. Just do it. It's not that hard. I don't know why these people are complaining. Maybe it's just for drama alert to get clicks. I don't know. Just enable it and you'll be fine. I haven't experienced any problems with it. The other big improvement with the camera is how fast and responsive the camera is with this upgraded processor running the Bion's XR chip. You can notice how fast and quick it is when you're cycling through the menu and setting your exposure and changing your settings. It is just so fast, even from changing from photo to video, it just does it like that, which is great. The less resistance to getting your shot, the better. So you're able to be more creative with it, which I love. And speaking of the mode dial, I love that they've added the extra switch underneath the mode dial to change from photo to video and to S&Q mode. It is just so simple and easy, just by clicking from over the side, and it changes the mode of the camera, and it is great. The only thing is that it doesn't change your color profile if you're using S-Log 3 in video, so you do need to disable that if you need to go to photo, but really, it's not that much of a big deal. The other thing that they changed on the camera was the exposure dial is no longer set just for exposure. You can now change it and assign it to whatever you like. It is a lockable dial, which is a really good feature. Personally, I shoot in manual 100% of the time, so I never use the exposure dial. I've set mine to white balance, and it is a great little feature to have, so you don't have to go diving through the menus to change your white balance. Okay, so let's talk about image quality, because at the end of the day, if the images that are coming out of the camera, if they're not that good, then what's the point? Well, spoiler alert, they're pretty amazing, both for photography and for video. When I get onto the computer and I get to edit the shots and the video, I'm always blown away at the quality that comes out of it. I can see a difference with the increase in megapixels, with the resolution and the quality of the image coming out of it. With 33 megapixels on this new sensor, it's amazing. The other thing that I've noticed is that the color science, it is improved as well. The skin tones are nice color, and colors overall, they look more realistic and more natural. With the A7 III, I found that I had to work a bit more with color correction, and with the A7 IV, that's definitely less. It's one less thing to worry about. It's just a really nice natural image that comes out of the camera. I'm also finding that I'm able to push the low light performance just a bit further as well with the ISO. Look, it's not a crazy amount of difference that I'm noticing, but yeah, I can definitely push the ISO just a little bit further and still get a really good clean image out of it. Dynamic range is still really good, as it is with all Sony cameras. The Sony A7 IV is no exception. I'm blown away by the detail that I can pull out of the shadows and the highlights when doing the edits. It's mind-blowing what the camera can see. Something else that I love with the camera, with live view when doing flash photography, something that wasn't in the A7 III, and I didn't realize that this was something that I loved and needed until I had it in the A7 IV, where you're able to see what the correct exposure will be when you've got a flash attached to the camera on the screen and in the viewfinder. So you're able to expose correctly when using the flash, and the same with white balance too. And that was a challenge with the previous A7 III. And of course, autofocus. Sony is known for having really good autofocus, and the Sony A7 IV is so reliable. I love that they now have touch tracking in video now for the autofocus. You can just select your subject and it will stick to it like glue. Whether you're doing it for humans, for birds or animals, it just works. It is so good. It even got an improvement with the firmware 1.10 that came out in August. I didn't even know it needed improving, but there it is. It is great that they are continuing to work and release firmware updates and seeing how they can improve the camera. So speaking of video, let's look at the video part of the Sony A7 IV, because of course it is a hybrid camera and it is good at both photography and video. With the increase in megapixels on the image sensor, you're now getting a 7K image, which is upscaled to 4K, and it is noticeably improved. In some cases, I'm finding that the Sony A7 IV is doing a better image quality with video than the FX3, which I'm filming on right now. Look, not always. Sometimes it is like that. Sometimes I do find that the image is just a little bit sharper than the FX3, but yeah, I'm blown away at how good the video that is coming out of it. The other big upgrade when it comes to video is that it now does 10-bit 422 color, which is so good for S-Log3. So it means that it is now usable. The S-Log3 in the A7 III was just not good. It would fall apart because of the 8-bit sensor. So with the upgrade, it means that you can match it with other Sony cameras in the cinema line, which is great. The camera does 4K 60 or 50 FPS depending on where you're located. Now, not everyone is a fan of it because it does crop in at 1.5 times. So it's shooting in Super 35 APS-C mode. And I understand why some people don't like this, but for me personally, it hasn't been an issue. The image quality is still really good and it still matches up with other Sony cameras. And when you're shooting at 25 frames or 30 frames, it still looks really good and you can match it up as you need to. You do need to keep in mind, because it is cropping in, that it does change your focal distance. So just keep that in mind when you are shooting. But for me personally, it hasn't been a problem. But look, if you do want that 4K 60 or 50 or even 4K 100, 120, then the A7S3 or the FX3 is going to be the camera for you. So earlier on in the video, I did mention that I did get the camera 12 months ago, but I wasn't able to use it all of that time. What happened was that I went and got the camera on release day. I was using it for a few months and it was working great. But after a couple of months, I noticed that there was a problem with it. When I would set up the camera to take a shot, I would have it in manual mode, set the exposure, and the shutter speed would just change by itself. It would just randomly go up and down. It would just cycle all the way up and cycle all the way down. And obviously it's not supposed to do that. It would also cycle through images by itself. It would just keep going through them, which it's not supposed to do. I reached out to Sony and they were great about it. They approved the warranty work straight away. I just sent them a quick video to show them what was happening with it. They approved it. Took it in to be repaired, but it took 2 months for the parts to come in. It's just the time that we live in at the moment with chip shortages and shipping, and yeah, I'm sure it will improve. I was so lucky that I had my A7 III that I was still able to use during that time, and I wasn't a member of the Sony Alpha Pro support. I am now. If you do qualify for it, I do recommend getting it. Look into it. It is definitely a worthy membership. If you have a camera that is in for warranty work, depending on the circumstances, you can get a loan camera. So do check out the details for that. After the 2 months, I got the camera back and it has been a beast. There's been no problems with it. It is so reliable. Haven't had that issue with the shutter speed changing or cycling through the images. So thank you, Sony, and thank you for getting it all fixed. So even though I was without the camera for a couple of months, I still do love the Sony A7 IV, but I do find a couple of things annoying. Before I go into it, make sure you show your support and hit the subscribe button and the like button, as it makes a world of difference in my life. So thank you for subscribing. Okay, so the most annoying thing that I find about the Sony A7 IV is when you look through the viewfinder, if the screen is not aligned up to the side or away on the body, the viewfinder doesn't activate. Oh, it is so annoying. It might seem so small and insignificant, but when you set up the shot and you want to look through the viewfinder, it's just one thing that you need to worry about when you're setting up the shot. You just got to move the screen, and it's just one thing I wish I didn't have to think about. Yeah, it's so annoying. The other thing is that the build quality I think could be improved on just a little bit. I mean, it's definitely improvement from the A7 III, but it is definitely no A7S3 quality or even the A1. I realize that's a $10,000 camera, but with the screen, it just feels just a little bit flimsy. I think if you were just a little bit too rough with it, I think you might have an accident. So there you go, they are my thoughts about the Sony A7 IV. After using it for the last year, I highly recommend this camera. Even after 12 months to this day, when I'm editing photos and video on it, I'm blown away every time at the quality that comes out of this camera. If it is outside of your budget, the Sony A7 III is still a good camera, but if you're looking for really good video, then the Sony A7 IV is definitely the worthy upgrade because it has the 10-bit 422 color space, so you can use S-Log3. With the Sony A7 IV now being out for 12 months now, you can find it discounted, and with Black Friday sales right around the corner, I'm sure you'll be able to find a really good deal. My name is Jem Lang, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.